Welcome Royal Secret. What happens when royal blood collides with royal will? When tradition crashes into rebellion, and when a grandmother must face her own son in the court of royal judgment. In the gilded corridors of Denmark's monarchy, one of Europe's oldest and most admired institutions, a quiet storm has been brewing. And now, it's exploded into public view. Queen Margrethe II, the beloved Danish monarch once celebrated for her poise, diplomacy, and cultural vision, is now locked in one of the most dramatic family feuds the Danish royal house has seen in generations. At the heart of this growing royal firestorm, Prince Joachim, her second son, and his two eldest children, Count Nikolai and Count Felix. Titles have been stripped, emotions have been shattered, and as the world watches, a shocking demand echoes through the royal halls: restore the titles. Restore the honor. Restore the future. But can the crown turn back time without breaking apart? The unfolding crisis that could redefine the House of Glucksburg. A royal reckoning that could either unite Denmark's monarchy, or tear it in two. Stay with us as we unpack the fresh battle between Queen Margrethe and Prince Joachim, and the emotional, legal, and political stakes surrounding Count Nikolai and Count Felix's future in the royal family. This isn't just a story about lost titles, it's a saga about identity, legacy, and what it really means to belong to royalty in the modern world. For over 5 decades, Queen Margrethe II ruled with a steady hand. An artist, a linguist, a beloved sovereign, her 50-year reign marked Denmark's longest, and in that time, she transformed the monarchy into a modern, streamlined institution. But beneath her ceremonial calm lies a deep understanding of monarchy as survival. That's what made her decision in 2022 so seismic. With little warning, Queen Margrethe announced that the children of her youngest son, Prince Joachim, would no longer carry the titles of prince and princess. Instead, they would be counts and countesses of Montpezat, a noble designation, yes, but one that stripped them of their royal style of His and Her Highness. The Queen claimed it was a necessary step to future-proof the monarchy. She cited a growing need to slim down the royal family, to align with other European houses who were making similar moves, like King Carl XVI Gustaf of Sweden and King Charles III of the UK. But what she might not have anticipated was the emotional bombshell that would follow. Especially from within her own palace walls, Prince Joachim, long seen as the more reserved and thoughtful of Margrethe's sons, was devastated. He didn't mince words. In rare and raw interviews with Danish media, he accused the palace of blindsiding him and his children. "We are all affected by this," he said solemnly. "It's never fun to see your children being mistreated like this. They've been placed in a situation they don't understand. And who could blame him?" Count Nikolai, his eldest son and a burgeoning model with global recognition, expressed shock and confusion. Felix, the quiet and studious younger brother, remained more private, but those close to him say the emotional impact was profound. Prince Joachim described the decision as a slap in the face, emphasizing how his children had done nothing to deserve being cut off from the very titles they were born into. Behind palace doors, tensions simmered. What began as a policy announcement soon spiraled into a family civil war. The Danish public was stunned. Polls showed the country was deeply divided. Some supported the Queen's modernization push. Others felt a deep sympathy for Joachim's family, especially the young counts, who had no say in their fate. Nikolai and Felix had been part of royal life since birth. Baptized in royal chapels, photographed on palace balconies, raised to understand their place in the monarchy, only to have that identity ripped away overnight. Danish tabloids ran emotional front pages. European royal watchers raised eyebrows. International media, from France to Australia, began probing the question. Had Queen Margrethe gone too far? And if she had, was there still time to make it right? Now, 2 years later, that question has become urgent. Because the counts are preparing to return. After a period of self-imposed exile in Paris, where Joachim served as Denmark's defense attaché to the French embassy, signs are emerging that the family may be heading back into the royal spotlight. Not as guests, not as distant relatives, but as royal representatives. And with that return, comes a bold new demand: the restoration of their titles. Sources close to the palace say Prince Joachim is quietly negotiating for his son's return to full royal status. This isn't just a personal matter anymore, it's becoming a constitutional and institutional crisis. Royal insiders have leaked that the Queen's advisors are deeply split. Some see restoration as a dangerous reversal that would undermine her authority. Others believe the situation has become untenable, and that reconciliation is not only desirable but necessary. At the center of this drama stands 24-year-old Count Nikolai, tall, charismatic, and fashion-forward. A man of two worlds. Nikolai has captivated Europe's younger generation. His work with Dior, his runway appearances in Paris and London, his modesty in interviews, his princely grace, even without the title. But with whispers of a royal return swirling, questions are multiplying. Could Nikolai become a working royal again? Could the Danish monarchy accept a prince who also walks fashion catwalks and headlines major campaigns? Would the Queen bend her rules to let him back into the fold? Public support for Nikolai has surged. Youth-driven polls suggest that over 70% of Danes under 30 believe his princely title should be restored. Some commentators now dub him the People's Prince, a modern royal who reflects global culture, not just old-world etiquette. And that has raised a provocative possibility. What if restoring Nikolai's title isn't just about family, but about survival? Behind the elegant walls of Amalienborg Palace, a quiet conflict unfolds. While Queen Margrethe maintains her public composure, insiders say the relationship between her and Joachim remains strained. The Queen's inner circle, once tightly guarded, has begun to leak hints of regret, but also concern. Margrethe's advisors fear that giving in to Joachim's demands may set a dangerous precedent. That if she reverses course now, it could look like weakness. That future decisions could be questioned. That public trust might erode. And yet others argue the exact opposite. Restoring the titles of Nikolai and Felix could actually strengthen the crown, says one former palace staffer. It would show emotional intelligence. It would show growth. And it would honor two young men who have always carried themselves with grace. Tensions are so high that, according to one anonymous source, the matter has reached Denmark's Royal Court of Council, a historic advisory body rarely invoked except during royal marriages, abdications, or constitutional emergencies. Yes, this battle has now become that serious. As the 21st century pushes forward, royal houses across Europe are being tested. Slimming down is the trend. King Charles III has narrowed his working royal circle. King Carl Gustaf's family has restructured. Even Spain has redrawn the roles of its younger royals. But Denmark's case is unique. Here, the split isn't just between crown and government, but within the crown itself. Between a monarch and her son. Between generations. Between past and future. And now, as Queen Margrethe approaches her 85th year, the question becomes unavoidable. Who decides the future of the monarchy, those born into it, or those who control its titles? The battle for Nikolai and Felix's titles isn't just about names or styles. It's about identity, belonging, and what it means to be royal in a modern democracy. While Count Nikolai has drawn the limelight with magazine covers and runway fame, his younger brother, Count Felix, has taken a quieter route through Denmark's royal drama, but don't mistake his silence for insignificance. Felix, now 22, was once hailed as the more private of the two brothers. A thoughtful, introspective young man who, despite the glamour of his royal heritage, seemed content to build a life rooted in discretion, education, and service. He trained briefly with the Danish military before deciding that life in uniform wasn't his path. Then, like his brother, he pivoted toward personal development, higher education, internships, and philanthropic work, far from the headlines. But even away from the cameras, the blow of losing his title hit hard. Friends close to Felix describe a young man struggling with emotional whiplash. One minute he was, His Highness Prince Felix of Denmark, a boy raised to know his place in the royal structure. The next, he was Count Felix, no longer a prince, no longer included in the royal circle, no longer walking beside the Queen at official events. He didn't ask for fame, said one source. But he did want clarity, purpose, and belonging. That was taken from him without warning. And in many ways, it is Felix's quiet dignity that has begun to sway some of the public. While tabloids focused on Nikolai's stardom, the Danish people began to look more closely at the overlooked younger brother, a symbol of how deep the scars of royal decisions can run, especially when they affect the heart of a family. Caught in the emotional crossfire of this royal feud is Queen Mary of Denmark, Crown Princess turned Queen Consort, an Australian commoner who has become one of Europe's most admired royals. As wife to Crown Prince Frederik and future Queen of Denmark, Mary has spent decades carefully crafting her image: graceful, intelligent, maternal, and modern. But behind that composed smile lies a woman navigating a treacherous royal maze. Mary is not only Queen to Denmark, she is also step-aunt to Nikolai and Felix. She's attended their birthdays, embraced them at family gatherings, posed with them on the palace balcony. Yet now, as tensions rise between Queen Margrethe and Prince Joachim, Mary finds herself in a precarious position. She must remain loyal to her husband's mother, the reigning monarch, but also must keep peace with her brother-in-law, whose children have been hurt by palace decisions. And Mary's influence is not insignificant. Some insiders believe she may be quietly mediating behind the scenes, encouraging dialogue between Margrethe and Joachim. Others say she has taken a backseat, allowing the monarch and her son to resolve their own rift. But one thing is certain: Queen Mary is the palace's emotional fulcrum, and how she navigates this moment could determine whether the royal family begins to heal, or continues to fracture. She has the trust of the Danish people, one royal historian notes. If Mary were to publicly support the restoration of titles, it could change everything. If Queen Mary is the heart of this story, Crown Prince Frederick is the mind. As heir to the throne and future King of Denmark, Frederick holds a unique and powerful position, but also a painful one. He is both brother to Prince Joachim and son to Queen Margrethe. He grew up side by side with Joachim, shared royal duties with him in youth, and watched their family change shape as Denmark evolved. And yet, he has always played the part of the dutiful heir. Frederick has publicly supported the monarchy's streamlining. He understands the pressures of modern leadership. But behind closed doors, palace insiders suggest he has pleaded for a reconciliation between his mother and brother. He fears that without healing, the family will remain divided well into his reign, and that such division could weaken the monarchy's foundation. Reports say Frederick has held private meetings with Joachim in Paris, attempting to mend fences. Others say he's encouraged his mother to meet with Nikolai and Felix, perhaps even extend invitations to key royal events. But so far, there has been no official sign of rapprochement. The question remains: will Frederick choose diplomacy or inheritance? Will he stand beside his brother or beside the crown? These are the dilemmas shaping the Danish monarchy's next chapter. Denmark's royal dilemma is not happening in a vacuum. Across Europe, similar stories are unfolding, ruling monarchs caught between modern reforms and ancient traditions. In the United Kingdom, King Charles III has trimmed the monarchy to a working core, leaving Prince Harry and Meghan estranged. In Sweden, King Carl XVI Gustaf revoked royal titles from several grandchildren, causing public tension with his daughter Princess Madeleine. In Spain, the royal family has shrunk drastically after years of scandal. What sets Denmark apart is the emotional intensity of its internal feud. This isn't about scandal or politics, it's about love, loyalty, and legacy. It's about a grandmother who ruled for 50 years facing off against her own son in a courtroom of hearts and headlines. And it's about two young men, Nikolai and Felix, who were born into privilege but raised into confusion. As one French newspaper noted, Denmark's royal drama is the most human. It's a family disagreement broadcast through royal tradition. And now, the world is watching. Will the Danish crown bend, or will it break? In recent months, there have been subtle signs that the tides may be shifting. Count Nikolai has been spotted at multiple high-profile events in Copenhagen, including fashion galas, charity dinners, and university receptions, events usually reserved for senior royals. Notably, he attended a UN youth reception in Aarhus, where he was referred to by media as Prince Nikolai, a title technically no longer his, but one that audiences and journalists continue to use. There is speculation that the palace may be testing the waters. A soft reintroduction, a silent recognition that public support for Nikolai is so strong, denying it would only deepen wounds. Royal reporters have described Nikolai as poised, respectful, and well-spoken, perhaps more princely, now than he ever was as an official prince. And behind the scenes, lawyers are reportedly exploring options for restoring the titles through a legal or constitutional channel. One source says an appeal could be made directly to Queen Margrethe under royal law, but that it would need to come with a public reconciliation. In other words, the ball may be in Prince Joachim's court. Prince Joachim, once furious and outspoken, has taken a new approach. He's begun building his case through diplomacy, not drama. Appearing in interviews to speak gently about his children. Attending public events with Felix and Nikolai. Smiling beside his wife Princess Marie and staying grounded in his service work abroad. Sources close to him say the anger has not close paired, but it has been refined into strategy. Joachim believes public support for his sons will force the crown to reconsider. That Denmark itself will demand their restoration. And, with recent polls leaning in his favor, he may be right. Some believe he's laying the groundwork not just for title restoration, but for his son's full return to royal duty. Imagine it. Count Nikolai representing Denmark at a youth climate summit. Count Felix cutting ribbons at cultural festivals. Both walking beside Crown Prince Frederik at national ceremonies. It's not fantasy anymore. It's a very real, very possible future. With the return of Prince Joachim's family looming, the Danish royal house is on the verge of a critical crossroads. Will the Queen extend an olive branch before her own reign comes to an end? Will Frederick act as a bridge between generations, saving the unity of the House of Glucksburg? Will the Danish people continue to support Nikolai and Felix's rightful place, or demand the monarchy stay firm in its reforms? And most of all, can a family so publicly fractured ever find its way back to wholeness? These are the questions that now hang over Denmark's palace like a crown of thorns and diamonds. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe.